So I was thinking about making this video for quite a while, and to be real quick, it has nothing to do with where I currently work full time, part time, and all that. But in light of the Trump administration garnishing wages for people who have defaulted on their college loans, I thought, it's about high time that we've had this conversation as a culture, as a society, community, whatever you want to call it, as to what exactly is higher education, because we've not really had this conversation. To me, it falls into two places. One, it's either a place where you can improve your financial outcomes. And if that's the case, then we should be striving more towards colleges that will allow that to happen. Or two, if people really do think like this is the place where you go to get educated, to become smarter and academic and to be civic minded and stuff. And we all know that's a bunch of crap, because in the past 10, 15 years, with the advance of social media and anything like that, we can learn a whole lot more through YouTube channels and Instagram and stuff. I'm not saying that our professors in our particular disciplines aren't intelligent, aren't awesome. They absolutely are. They're absolutely critical and stuff. I am thinking though, why have we not evaluated what higher education is actually doing for us? Because it can't be two things at once. And I'm going to I'm going to show you the research that I have that explains a little bit better than what I'm talking about right now. Because as I see it, education has two problems. One, it's a pricing problem, and two, there's an incentive problem. Now, the first one comes with the pricing problem. We were all told at the end of high school, if you go to college, you end up with a degree. That'll be your pathway to success. That'll be your pathway to earning more. And there's plenty of studies that bear that out and be like, yeah, absolutely. If you go to college, you'll end up with more money over your lifetime. You're like, okay, that's really great. That's a great idea. If you go get an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, the problem is if you start digging into the statistics and you start looking at the whole picture, the whole economy, not just your earnings, but also the debt that comes with it. Because you're not getting college for free. I mean, yeah, in Tennessee you kind of can. You can do Tennessee Promise, there's Tennessee Reconnect, there's Tennessee Strong. There's a lot of different programs and scholarships and stuff. I'm not ignorant to that. Trust me, I was an advisor at a college for many years and had to deal with that. But I am saying that we tend to think about college only in that respect and not go, oh, but you're going to end up having to take out loans for that. And that can be really expensive. So if you look at the average cost of college, it hasn't gone down. It only keeps going up. Now, I found these statistics online. It's going to be different, obviously. When you start working with averages, you start dealing with just an overall picture that may not suit your particular world. So obviously, it said the average cost of college in the United States is $38,000. That might not necessarily be true wherever it is you're going, especially if you go to community college or you go to a local university where you have in-state tuition, all that stuff. And that's per student per year, but that's including books, supplies, daily living expenses. This is nationwide. That's the average, $38,000 a year. That's quite a bit, and you can see I have links to all this in this post. So what that amounts to on average, if you actually do all the math, is $108,000, $584 over the course of 4 years. That's a lot of money. That's for a 4 year in-state tuition approximation. Now, I know all of that isn't tuition and textbooks and stuff, but it's also your living expenses, getting around, your groceries, and all that stuff. I think once you actually put in all the money that is spent on a 4 year degree, if it's not that, it's very close to that. And you got to remember how averages work. It's just the average. Of course, you can go higher, you can go lower, depending on your situation. And then we start thinking about, man, that is a whole lot of money. And my whole problem with that is that when it comes to the college system, everything goes up in price. I completely get it. But look, the average cost of college has done nothing more, that's doubled in the 21st century. Their compound annual growth rate of tuition is 4.04%. I don't know why that's not included in the talks that high school students have with in regards to college admission. I don't recall having a lot of conversation about money. In fact, it was more of like, oh, apply for FAFSA. If you don't get anything, then just take out loans. And there really wasn't a whole lot of personal finance um, there wasn't a whole lot of personal finance coaching or anything where it's like, hey, you're actually incurring a debt, you will owe this back one day, so make sure whatever degree you're getting in, that it will be enough so that it can pay you back. That's not what we really do. We tell people to, follow their passion and then let it take you where you need to go. And we all know that's some crap too. And I come to this from the perspective of someone who's been in the college system as a recipient, as someone who's earned degrees, as someone who's taught in the higher education system. So I've been on both sides of this, and I actually think what's happening to kids these days, and I call them kids because to me they are, these late teens, these lower 20s, is they're not being fully told exactly what the actual cost they're incurring. Yes, they're able to sign on the dotted line that they want $60,000 in student loans so that they can go get their degree. Ironically enough, though, if you're a 21-year-old and you have a business idea and you go to the bank and ask for $20,000, they'll tell you to go pound sand. But if you tell them, oh, I'm going to go get a degree in dance, they're like, yeah, sure, sign right here, buddy. We'll give you $20,000 because it's a non-forgivable loan. Everything else, the bank takes on the risk. And that's what I don't really like, is the risk offloading from the colleges to the students. Students assume all the risk for the education they're going to get. And so that means they're having to sign a contract, and they probably don't fully really understand it. Like if it's kind of like in that movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey's like screaming in that bookcase, no, don't go, don't go. I feel like if you fast forwarded yourself to 28 years old, 31 years old, you would probably be screaming at yourself, don't sign those papers, don't sign those papers, go get a job, go save the money, and then go get your degree then. Because that's kind of what ended up working for me. And I know that's not everybody's thing. Like, you can't just go get a job and then go to college. It actually ended up working out for me. Like, briefly, my story is I went to EMTIV school. I then became a paramedic, got my associate's degree. I used that to cash roll my bachelor's degree. And I ended up with an undergrad degree in English language, British literature, secondary education minor. And I ended up using the college that I worked for, they were able to pay for my master's degree, which was awesome. I mean, they're in degrees that would not net me any money. In fact, if you start looking, this is the median earnings of early career, mid-career college graduates. And these are if you're working full-time by college major. This is 2018, 2019. I know it's a little bit older. It's hard to get more recent information right now. I don't know why. But if you look down to secondary education, it's $52,000 a year. That's median, and I don't live in an area where I would get the median if I wanted to go be an English teacher. To this day, I say the most valuable thing that I ever got was my general technician degree in paramedic studies, my license. That's it. That has been the best financial freedom I ever got, was becoming a paramedic. It's crazy. So when I think about these colleges and I think about pricing and stuff, I think about, you got two vehicles here. You got a Toyota Tundra, and then you have a Jeep Wagoneer. One is $46,000, obviously, and the other $74,000. But when you go to college, that's not how that works. You pay the same amount whether you're getting the Toyota Tundra or whether you're getting the Jeep Wagoneer. So you can go to college and pay the price for a degree. And people who are getting degrees in electrical engineering or nursing or something like that, where they're going to have a higher median income, you're going to pay the exact same amount of money getting a degree in English. That'd be just like if we paid the exact same amount of money and you got the Jeep Wagoneer, but I ended up with the Toyota Tundra. So I thought about this too, is like charging the same price for paths with wildly different outcomes while at the same time shifting all the risk to the students is, to me, unethical. I'm not saying that college should be cheap. I'm not saying that you should increase the price of nursing and PA school. Good God, we need more medical people than ever. We don't need to be increasing the price of that. If anything, I feel like we ought to be looking at the prices of these degrees and actually analyzing it and putting pressure on the colleges to be like, why are these degrees going up in price when the value isn't going up? The value is actually starting to go down. Because, we have this idea that as soon as we get out of college, we're gonna have a good job. where we're going to get to make extra money and stuff. But the real thing is that's if you get into jobs that have like technical skills, technical expertise that the economy needs, that society needs. We need medical providers, we need electricians, we need plumbers, we need HVAC specialists, we need whatever this guy's doing, soldering a thing. Um, so what I found interesting is as I was going through some of the stats, and again, you can go to this stuff too. Do not take my word for it. We hold a lot of assumptions for a 4-year college degree. They're saying like the median starting salary is around $47,000. I don't necessarily agree with that. I actually think it could be higher or lower depending on where you're at. Um, the average debt for a 4-year public university degree is $25,969. That is not true. That is way higher than that. So these statistics are already kind of like skewed a little bit. But where I got this from was from a professional career comparison with a 4-year degree college. And what's interesting is how craft professionals, how much more money that they're making, and they don't incur the same amount of debt that college students do. Like you can see there, first year, 50% of a journeyman wage, 60, 70, 80%. They have an annual wage inflation. Individual enters a 4-year apprentice at age 18 and they come out $63,456. This isn't something to be looked down upon. When I was in high school, it was kind of looked down upon to think about being a plumber, electrician, woodworker, something like that, shop class and stuff. Now it's like we need all these technical expertise because so many people went into the professional fields and they went into healthcare and stuff like that, that they actually abandoned all these technical skills that take years to hone in on. That's why it's so expensive to get a plumber right now. So like the skilled trades, like electricians, plumbers, and HVAC, they frequently report median wages in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, with experienced workers well over that. I can tell you in my field, being a paramedic, that I never would have thought this because EMS was not historically paid really well. And don't get me wrong, I do think we have a long way to go when it comes to getting the compensation that's due to us, especially considering the workload that's placed on us, the stress load that's placed on us, the amount of expertise that's expected from us out in dire situations and stressful situations and stuff. And we're basically functioning like autonomous practitioners with constrained resources and stuff. But beyond that, I'm still making more money than I've ever made in this field. And it's crazy. And again, it's not because I have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree or a master's degree. None of that stuff matters. The place where I work doesn't even care about it. They're just like, oh, okay, cool. Well, anyways, here's your pay based off of how many years you've been in EMS. And I've been in for about 23 years at this point. So again, the most valuable thing I have is the certification / licensure I have from a skill set that I learned, not necessarily from the bachelor's degree that I have. And so my thought is a healthy system should have some level of program level outcome transparency where these schools are kind of held accountable. It's like, okay, cool. Hey, you graduated 800 graduates from your English degree with English degrees or liberal arts degrees. Cool. Where are they now? What kind of money are they making? Are we helping society out? Are we burdening the taxpayers with a lot more expense because these people can't pay back their student loans? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. You're thinking, but it's not fair. It's not fair that these guys took on the loans. They are supposed to pay them back. I completely agree. We should have them pay off their loans. I just think it's crazy that like everything else under the sun, you can bankrupt yourself out of except college loans. So again, the schools are assuming the entire risk. The colleges assume, I'm sorry, the students assume all the risk. The colleges have no risk to worry about at all. There's some measure of state level funding, but it's minimal. It's nothing that's going to encourage them or discourage them for putting on different programs or whatnot. That generally comes from the community itself whenever they have conversations with politicians or local community leaders as to what they need. Like I know at the local university that I'm at, they have more AI stuff. There's more biology, technician level courses, science level courses, healthcare. They got a PA program now. They do aviation, and so I'm certain that there's a whole lot of research and stuff that goes into offering those programs. I'm not saying that that we shouldn't be held account, that we shouldn't pay off our debts. I am saying though, the colleges need to have a little bit something on the line as well, because I don't think it's okay for us to allow an 18-year-old who really has no business getting an $120,000 into debt for a degree in art, when they have no idea what they're going to do with it. It's like, oh, I mean, the big joke is they're going to go be a barista. And I mean, we've laughed at it, but it's really not funny anymore, because we actually have a whole generation of students who have gotten out of college with or without their degrees, and they are in obscene amounts of debt, to the point where it's like, we're not even talking about credit cards. We're not talking about cars and stuff. You got the likes of Caleb Hammer, Dave Ramsey, and all these other people that are now putting on whole podcasts and stuff like that that are making money off of people's ignorance on personal finance. And the college is basically like, cool, hey, you got your degree, have fun with that. So again, I think a healthy system would have some level of transparency about program level outcomes. I think there should be some risk adjusted pricing. Sorry, but like, if that means that an English degree needs to cost less, then an English degree needs to cost less. And I know you might be thinking, well, that's crazy. It shouldn't cost less. I actually think you'd have more accessibility. If you make it cheaper, you might actually have more people who would have never considered it before all of a sudden consider getting a degree in something, just because the price point is a little bit more tangible. And I think there needs to be stronger outcome-based funding. So if there is some type of macroeconomic pressure that we can put on these colleges to make sure that their graduates are coming out and making money so they are productive members of society and all that stuff, then absolutely there needs to be some type of pressure for that to happen. Because otherwise, your best bet is to go into the trades. I mean, you start working into any trade. You start working and learning about any trade. We're talking fixing cars, fixing engines, going through electrician, plumbing, anything like that. You're going to be infinitely more prepared for the economy than somebody who's just getting a degree, has no life experience, has real world experience, especially in the degree that they're getting in. But you'll be in a much better position without all the debt that goes along with it. So I think the bottom line is, we price college as if outcomes are equal, but we know they're not. Uniform tuition isn't really neutral. It quietly transfers failure from institutions to students. And the real scandal isn't that college can be expensive. It's that honest alternatives are hidden. And I will say that it's not that it's hidden. The reason why I got into EMS is because on a career day when I was a senior, a guy named Brian Bruce from Bedford EMS went there recruiting, and I barely remembered it. Another friend of mine named Matt Cooper wanted me to join him in on it. And I remember I went through the thing. It's like, oh, it looks pretty cool. And then fast forward a year or so later, I ended up in EMT IV school, and then I ended up in EMS forever and ever. And that's pretty much what I do now. I do EMS and I teach about EMS. So I love what Micro had to say. A friend of mine reminded me of this quote the other day. It says, don't follow your passion, follow opportunity, and take your passion with you. I think that is more pertinent now than it ever has been before. Again, I just think that if we're really into the whole idea of education being something that should be obtained, then we should look at the price point. We should look at the incentives that you get from it, and that we should make our decisions accordingly.